afternoon, brothers and sisters. It's 10/11/2018. I want to continue where I left off in the last video. As you know, the stock market dropped 831 points yesterday. And I want to talk a little bit about some more economic news that I found out since I did the last video. And also, the other angle to this thing is, the U.S.-China trade war and how that's got something to do with all of this stuff too. Maybe a lot to do with it. Now, I had seen a article. We're talking about the economic meltdown worse than the Great Depression. And one of the reasons why this is happening is there's a $63 trillion dark cloud of emerging market debts, that's about to come due, that's owed to the central banks. And a lot of these emerging market countries are defaulting because their economies and everything their currency and everything is being weakened against a strengthening dollar. So while the dollar is strengthening, it's weakening their currency, and they're probably going to default on the debts that they owe. And this is one of the angles of why things are so bad. There's a lot of different factors coming together right now in a perfect storm or something that's going to bring about what's about ready to happen. There's a lot of stuff going on. And a debt bubble is growing in the emerging markets, as they said, that's 3 times larger than it was in 2007. It's 7 times larger than it was in 2002. And a lot of those countries, like I said, are getting ready to default. And a different trigger to the next crisis than the last one, but there will be another crisis. And this is a quote from the J.P. Morgan chairman recently. Central banks will be forced to make unprecedented moves, direct purchase of equities, total chaos in America, eradication of wealth of big wealthy families here in the U.S. And now we know that the NASDAQ is at an all-time high, has been at an all-time high. And what happens in the stock market is that there's an adjustment every 7 to 10 years in cycles since the beginning of the history of the stock market to now. It's 7 to 10 year cycles. The last economic crisis we had was in 2008, so that's 10 years. So we're right there at the top of that cycle of time where something has to adjust in the market. If it's been going up, 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 now it's got to go down. Now, part of the problem with all of this stuff is the trade war with China. And the trade war with China is going into a thing where the militaries are being built up and all this stuff, and eventually it could lead to some kind of a conflict and maybe start World War III. So as a result of our economy collapsing over here as a result of the U.S.-China trade war, that could bring about the war. And interestingly enough, General Mattis ordered 80% of key fighter jets ready for war within 1 year. And this was just announced in the last week. Now, in the meantime, last week, a few days ago, Mike Pence was talking about China being our number 1 enemy. And one of the things he mentioned was China was weaponizing space. Then you had a U.S.-Chinese warship in unsafe encounter with a U.S. destroyer. You also had China and the Philippines going at it, where China was threatening to attack the Philippines, and the Philippines was trying to buy jets and stuff from us, and military equipment and equipment from the Russians or something to, beef up their military. On August 18th, U.S. allies targets with long-range bombers there was an article on August 18th where the U.S. Had reported that the Chinese were training for long-range target bombing targets of Allied targets in the U.S. and U.S. cities. I think I mentioned that in an earlier video. And Trump puts China on notice. Then on September 2nd, U.S. B-52 bombers, Carrier Strike Group, Japan Force drill in the South China Sea. What's spurred all of this stuff was the $500 billion free lunch trade thing that Donald Trump wanted to get rid of. He wanted to eliminate it, and that started the whole trade war. And, you know, it seems like I saw an article from yesterday on U.S.-China diplomacy is collapsing because they had this diplomatic meeting in the last few days, and things are not going too well. So this economic collapse over here that we were talking about, is that going to bring about a war between China and the U.S.? And then a little bit more on the economy. Retail apocalypse. Some of the stores, there was Foot Locker, 110 stores, CVS 70, Abercrombie and Fitch 60 more stores, Gymboree 350. The Children's Place were hundreds. JCPenney, 138 stores they closed and plan to turn the remaining stores into toy stores. Radio Shack, 1,000 stores. And Macy's, 7 stores laying off 5,000 employees. Altogether, there were 300 store closings in 2018 and more to come between now and the end of the year. And the scriptures that the Lord gave me for today's message is James 5, 1 through 3. Go to now, ye rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. Your riches are corrupted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver is cankered, and the rest of them shall be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it were fire. Ye have heaped up treasure together for the last days. And then, of course, Revelation chapter 6 and verse 6. And I heard a voice in the midst of the 4 beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. So it's talking about there, it's talking about that it's going to take a whole day's wage to buy a loaf of bread, or to buy some barley. It's going to take, and somebody pointed out that that doesn't mean that just the price of the loaf of bread would be a day's wage. It also implies that a day's wage would be the same wage worldwide. Because if you have a worldwide currency and a worldwide government, one government, you're going to have a universal wage. They're talking about having a universal wage. And if that happened, then that person implied that everyone would earn the same amount regardless of whether they are a doctor or a janitor. Everybody would earn the same wage worldwide for whatever they did for a living. This is what's coming, brothers and sisters. So, this is just more information that I wanted to bring to you on what I was already talking about, because some people that come on to mock and scoff, they ask why that somebody is scared, just trying to scare people every fall. But this fall here is different than the fall of the last 2 or 3 years, because like I said, we're at 10 years now on the 7 to 10 year cycles of economic upturns and downturns. So we've already gone to the end of the cycle, and it's time for, and the stock market's been going up and up and up. So all it can do at this point on the next, at the end of this cycle, apparently is go down. And we saw that yesterday with that 800 plus point drop in the market. And what this is leading to, like I said, is it's leading to the eventual, what they want to do is collapse the dollar and have that one world currency. And that was in the Economist magazine of 1988. And they said that they wanted to do that in the year 2018. So that's all for now in this video here. I want to try to maybe come up with some more information, but what I'm trying to do is show some evidence that, you know, things are on the downturn right now, and it's not just, you know, somebody trying to scare somebody. There's some real solid economic news, like the housing market going down in California and New York, and them cutting the prices of the most expensive real estate is a bad sign, and a sign that there's also a bubble going to bust again, probably in the housing market like it did in 2008 also. So not just scare tactics, reality. God bless each and every one of you in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, and I'll see you on the next upload.